Welcome back to the garage team. How's it going? As always, I hope you're doing fantastic wherever you are in the world. I hope you're feeling good, and if that's the case, you know what to do. Pass that on and help the next person feel just as good as you are. In this video, I'm gonna show you step by step how to do a valve cover gasket change on the BMW M62. Let's go. Tools you're gonna need for this are as follows. Let's start over here. You're gonna need, of course, a ratchet, a 10mm socket, you need a T25, some sort of extension, a flathead screwdriver, a pick tool is always handy. Now you can either use a magnet or needle nose pliers, or you might need both. That's totally up to you and your particular skill set. A torque wrench. To clean the valve cover, once you remove it, you're gonna need either a wire brush. Maybe you can use, depending on how dirty yours is and how, if it's the first time you're doing it, how many miles you have on the car, you might need some sort of scrape tool. I have two here, or you can even make do sometimes with just a little blade, like a sharp blade, but be really, really careful. You're gonna need some rags. Optionals are, of course, gloves, a rubber mallet, again, depending on how stuck your valve cover is. I almost forgot some cleaning stuff. I don't have it pictured here, but the cleaning stuff is going to be some kind of brake disc cleaner or engine cleaner, black RTV gasket maker, high temperature, oil resistant. Both of these sides are going to be pretty similar as far as what steps you need to follow. The only difference is on the passenger side here, this is for US cars. European cars is going to be the driver's side. You're going to have your air intake here, so you'll have to remove that on this side. And then the main difference on the right side here, or the driver's side for US cars, is this positive terminal here. Remove the vanity little cover here, press down. Just like that, it should come off. If your car has this box in good condition, you'll actually need to have a T25 for the two screws right here so you can get the entire box off. Mine is all kinds of broken, so I can actually just pull this right out. This is going to be your positive terminal, and then I will wrap this up with a rag, and when I take everything apart, I'll set this aside over here. So let's start by removing these little vanity covers that say BMW, and there's going to be 210s right here, so go ahead and take those off with your ratchet. Now I'm gonna take the positive, like I said, just wrap it around, put it aside. And now it's time to take off the coils. Really simple. Pull up on the retaining clip, pull up on the connector, set aside. Careful with this one, it has a ground to it. Now let's take off the coils. There's two 10mm nuts on them. So go ahead and undo all of those. Just make a mental note or take a picture of where your grounds go. There's gonna be two on this side, here and here. And then remove the coils. Again, when you're removing them, pay attention to the bottom of them. Make sure that there is no oil. And I recently did a video on replacing the spark plugs, and I showed you that there was oil inside of my spark plug wells. I just want to show you the passenger side. Same procedure applies so far. You have a little bit less room here because you're going to have both your ABS module and your check. I forget the actual name of it. You know, you can probably tell me what it's called down below. So the next thing we're going to go to is removing the injector boxes here. I'm going to go ahead and show you on the driver's side first. Before we take this box off, we're gonna have to take some clips at the bottom here. There's gonna be 4 clips that are holding each of the 4 injectors on each side of this V8. But before we can even get to that, let's work on the top here. Now, I've read some forum DIYs and I've seen online that some people have been doing this without actually taking these boxes off. I don't have experience doing that. I don't think I'm good enough to do that. If you are good enough, if you have the patience of a monk, please do so. That's at your own risk. I take it all apart. It is a little bit more work, but I feel like it also reduces the risk of me breaking anything in the process of doing it. And I want to give myself the most space or as much space as possible when I take the valve cover off, because I think it's a tight enough fit as it is. But again, you don't have to take it off. If you want to skip this step, totally up to you. If you don't, then let's go ahead and take this off. There's going to be 2 connectors up here, these 2, and then 2 10mm nuts. I've already kind of loosened everything, but I'm just going to show you the drill here. This connector at the front of the engine here has a clip. You push the clip in, comes out like that. This one over here, you're going to need some sort of pick tool because this connector has a little notch here on the base of the connector, and you want to get that notch past the key on the base. So you're going to be putting your pick tool in there, just wedging it just enough, and then back and forth you can move the pick tool as you pull the connector up. Again, the key here is to not break anything because everything is going to be really brittle. Once you take those off, kind of put them off to the side, and then you're going to work on these 2 10mm nuts here. Like I said, I've already kind of started it, so mine are just finger tight. I'm also going to remove this line because it gives me a little bit more space right there. You know, it also helps if you grow an extra set of hands, because you can do both sides at the same time, and that's pretty awesome. Cuts the work time in half. Once you have that removed, lift up on the bracket here that holds this, unclip the little side here. This is that entire line right there, and then just kind of work it over towards the middle of the engine bay. You want to set it all over here, out of the way, that side as well. Since, like I said, we're going to be taking these off. And now we're ready to tackle the bottom clips for the injectors. Now, the clips that everyone seems to talk about and fear are really not that difficult. Again, it's just a matter of having patience with them. They come off just like any other clip. They're going to be found right here. So I want to give you kind of like a view of them up close. That's going to be the clip right there. To get these clips out, you're going to have your hook tool. At this point, it also helps to have both your magnet and maybe your pliers so you can grab them. Grab your pick tool, move it like that. The other side can be a little bit challenging, but basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to relieve tension off of this little connector here, and you're gonna do that on this side. Now, if you push the clip all the way to the bottom, you should be able sometimes to pull it off completely from just this one side. Don't worry too much if the clip bends. It's fine, you can bend it back. So like, see, mine is almost all the way gone there. I can't really show you the other side, it's behind this piping, but you're gonna have 4 of these clips. So do your best to, again, have the patience to do one of them at a time. Do not rush on this part, please. So that's all of the clips taken off. That's your 4 injectors that you're looking at. This is going to be the driver's side. This is the side I was working on right now. These are kind of like what the little clips look like. Again, if they get bent, it's not a big deal, but just make sure that you don't lose them in there. Gotta say, this side ended up being a little bit more challenging, but I was able to get them off. You probably want to put the clips back on there and just get them ready so that you don't lose them. That's what I like to do anyway. You don't have to do this step right now, but I don't see why not. So I'm gonna do that. So I just wanted to show you guys this. So this is what can happen if you're trying to put the clip on and you don't have it on properly. If it goes through one of the holes there, it'll end up getting caught like that, and you might think you have it on all the way and that it's ready to go, but that will never go back onto the injector. You want the clips to be like that. Yeah, so you want both of the clips to be like that, wrapping all the way around the connector, not like this. Now I have both of the fuel connectors here, connector boxes, I guess, taken all off. I have the clips back on. I just got it out of the way enough where it's not gonna be in my way when I take this off. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you're gonna have 3 up front here. You can't quite see them yet, but we'll do those next. Let's start with these. Without a doubt, as you're taking these off, you're going to come across this. So of course, this is the nut that's supposed to come off. This nut, this washer, and then this little rubber O-ring here are everything that's supposed to come off. You replace the rubber O-ring, you reuse the metal washer, and of course, the top nut. Not a big deal. All you have to do is grab a 10mm open-ended wrench, put it in there, put your 10mm socket on here and take them apart, and then this stud is going to have to go back. It's not supposed to come out like this, it's supposed to come out like this. Just the top nut, the washer, and the rubber O-ring. The rest of it stays in the car. These are going to come off as bolts, so you will have the entirety of it coming off. That's fine. And I think on the M60, don't quote me on this, but this is the M62 technical update. That's the M62 TU. The M60, or just the simple M62, the one right before this, might have all of them being nuts instead of the front 3 being bolts. Just double check, do a little bit of research. I'm not sure on that. I just know that this applies specifically to the M62 TU, where the inner 8 are nuts and the outer 3 are bolts. This is the moment of truth. I haven't even started pulling on this valve cover. It might be really tight, or it might not. I don't know yet. So I'm gonna attempt to, oh my goodness. Guys, did you see that? Did you? Oh, look. Oh. Oh. Also, be kind of careful when you're taking this off. If there's any debris, stuff like that, you don't want it to go straight into the engine. So you will definitely have to do double check everything for whatever went in here, which I know some stuff dropped in there. Oh my God, yes. This side, just like the other side, wasn't really even on there. So, oh man, I can't tell you how many of these I've done where it is just impossible. I mean, you will battle with it for hours before you get it off. With the valve cover off, you want to look at the channel where the gasket is going to sit, and you want to make sure that you clean it thoroughly. And what I mean by that is use common sense. Don't use anything too abrasive, but at the same time, if there's a bunch of stuff on there, you might want to use either engine degreaser or some kind of brake parts cleaner, whatever works best. The trick to cleaning the valve covers is to get in there to get all the sludge off, but not to damage that channel. A lot of these valve covers are going to be a little bit softer material. They're magnesium, so they're just a little bit different than your regular plastic covers that come in most newer cars. I'm using a couple of things here. I'm going to use this scraper to kind of just go over the surfaces like this, not inside. And then this is a soft, or a very used wire brush that I've had for a while. Again, this is just going to slightly scrape off any chunks or any buildup that's going to be inside this channel. Obviously, do this in a well-ventilated area. I have both valve covers cleaned up to the best of my ability. A word of warning, whenever you're cleaning your valve covers with an abrasive chemical, which most likely you're going to be using, the other side of the valve cover might actually end up looking something like that. And this is just so that you know kind of what you're getting yourself into. That's why most videos that you see after the guys clean up the valve cover, they will refinish it. They will strip it completely off or sandblast it and then repaint it. If I was keeping this engine forever, I would, but I have plans. I have plans for an engine swap, so this is gonna be okay for now. Clean the mating surface. You should be able to do that with just a rag. If there's any kind of debris or anything stuck, like any sludge, then you can use a scraper or your blade, but just be really careful and also try to catch it so it doesn't go into your engine. It would probably be wise, not necessary, but wise, to do an oil change after you do this job, because undoubtedly you will have some debris that falls in the engine, and that's just part of doing this job. I mean, you can't really do anything to make sure that you get every single piece that goes in there. So if you want to do an oil change, now would be a good time too. When installing the gaskets on the valve cover, BMW recommends that you use glycerine in the channel so that when you set the gasket down, it floats or glides for a better installation. That's to keep the gasket from binding. Now, I've never done that. I've actually always used a little bit of my gasket maker right on the corners here, and maybe one dab here, one dab here. Let me just say this. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, then don't do it. Do what BMW recommends. Get some glycerin and lightly coat the channel where the gasket is going to go. But I've always done it this way, and it's always worked out just fine for me. So I'm gonna show you how I do it, and then you guys can do it the way that you wish to do it. And this is just to hold the gasket in place. I'm not trying to glue the gasket down to the valve cover. I just want the gasket to be held in place. It makes it a lot easier when installing it. Again, if you don't agree with this method, totally okay. Do it whatever way works for you. Also, when placing the gasket in its proper position here, you want to press it down. You don't want to pull it and stretch it. Just press it down. Now to install this stud that came off, just like the ones you have right here, you're gonna have to use the double knot method. So you're not able to put the stud in there and crank this nut because it'll just float and dance on that stud. So start by taking off that one. I'm not using this nut for this method because it has a flange on it already, has a washer built into it, and I don't want that. Just go ahead and grab 2 regular nuts. Make sure they fit on there. Okay. Now what you're doing here is you're gonna tighten these nuts against each other. So you're gonna put a wrench on the bottom and a wrench on the top. That'll give you a friction torqued nut that will be strong enough so that you can put the stud in there. A wrench for the bottom nut. And I'm gonna be using my ratchet on the top. And I'm just tightening the nuts to each other. With that done, start threading the stud back in here. And when you're threading the stud back in, use the top nut, not the bottom one. If you use the bottom one, you're gonna end up loosening both of these against each other. Right now, they're pretty tight against each other, and that's what we want. Now, be really careful. This is all aluminum and it can bend really easy, so this is not the time to prove that you go to the gym. This is the time to be very, very nice with these. Once you feel it start to get tight, you don't want to go past that point too much. I mean, just get it snug. That right there for me is going to be snug. And once you have it snug, again, hold the bottom nut with a wrench, hold the top nut with another wrench or a ratchet. And now all you're doing is you're gonna be taking the pressure off of these. So you're gonna be loosening these right there. Now you can take both of the nuts off. And finally, put the one that was supposed to be there. There you go. Grab your wrench. I believe that the torque spec for these is also 10 Newton meters. If I'm wrong, then I don't know. Check the Bentley manual, but I've always done them just by hand. So there, when it's kind of tight, you're done. Now that everything is clean and the valve cover is ready to go back on, we want to make sure to hit this corner down here, that one right there, where the chain kind of ends, and this, and that. Basically, the edges where the half moons kind of go in, you want to hit those with some of that black RTV gasket maker. And again, it's going to be just a small dab just to make sure that there are no leaks. Once again, that's going to be 6 points that you want to hit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you want to do that on both sides. I'll come over to, let's see, my passenger side now. Same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Before we start making a mess with gasket maker all over the engine bay, let's make sure to have the hardware ready to go. So make sure that all your bolts and your nuts are clean. Make sure your nuts are clean. Anyway, yeah, pay special attention to the nut seal. This one right here, be aware that the nut seal is going to be a different shape and size than your stud seal, so don't get them all confused. I know they look very, very similar, but the nuts take a nut, a washer, and a nut seal, and that's kind of what you're looking at. You have 16 total of these, 6 total of these. And yeah, if you missed out the part numbers, go back to the beginning of the video. I posted the part numbers for everything here straight from BMW. Pay attention to this ground right here when you're putting the valve cover on. You're gonna have to make sure that you don't get it stuck in here by accident. It has to go in through here. So just be aware of that. Once you have the valve cover on there, you don't want to move it around too much. I would just go ahead and put a couple of the nuts here just to kind of hold it in place. And then you just want to double check and make sure that the valve cover is seating properly on all of the edges. Run your finger through the top here, run your finger through the bottom. Be careful with at the corners where you have the gasket maker. Sometimes you just gotta take the gloves off because they do get in the way, and you know, you gotta get some grease and dirt under your pedicure, or what is it, manicure? Under your manicure. You can tell I know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Torque spec is 10 Newton meters, which comes out to like 7.3 foot-pounds of torques. Now there's a pattern for these nuts and bolts to be torqued, and it's basically radiating from the inside out and opposing. So basically you would start with something like here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then here. I wanted to give you a close-up here for reference. So that's what the nut is gonna look like when it's just finger tight. And then if you come over here and look at this one, you can see how the nut seal, or that little rubber piece, has mushroomed out. That's about 10 Newton meters right there. And you want all of them to end up looking like that. Again, just a little visual reference that might be helpful for some of you out there. After torquing everything down, it's time to start putting everything back. Everything goes back in the reverse way that you took it off. So it is the reverse of removal. And after you've put everything back together, start the car, check for leaks, and over the next few days, keep an eye out for the valve cover. Make sure that there's no leaks, no seeping from anywhere. If you torqued everything properly, you should be all done. Thank you so much, guys, for staying till the very end of the video. You guys are the MVPs. I appreciate you wholeheartedly. If you found the video helpful, if you found it entertaining, please share it with a friend, give it a thumbs up, give it a comment down below. Or if you really want to make me happy, consider subscribing. That's gonna do it for this one. Thank you so much. I will see you on the next video. Peace.